don't adjust your televisions. This is the Town Out podcast at a really obscure hour. I feel a little bit fresher than I normally do on these shows, so it's a bit strange. After last night's 2-1 victory over Sligo, securing our third victory of the season, and this morning, I have to say, we'll be joined by Gally and Steph. Gentlemen, good to see you at this ungodly hour for us.
I don't know how anybody else does this in the mornings.
What's going on? We're in the twilight zone here.
Yeah, I think we're more enjoyed with a drink in our hand that you can sit on your way back home from Oriel, lads, rather than with a morning coffee. Look, it's a strange one, but for us at this time. But looking back on last night's game, Gally, I'll come to you first. Look, I don't think Sligo were great last night, but so it was important to get the victory, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Like, it's. I think we needed a game like that. I mean, we spoke last week about a couple of draws we've had and near misses, but I thought last night, I think we really showed, albeit maybe the first 20 minutes was kind of 50-50. We definitely controlled the game. I mean, that was the most important thing to be doing. The result at the end is fantastic, but to control the game against Sligo, who've over the last couple of seasons have improved, but this year maybe they're okay. I don't think they'll have the season they had last season. But judging on last night, they seem to be in the final third, they seem to be poor. We definitely had them sussed from early on. But the main thing for me to take from it was that we controlled the match. Although it wasn't end to end, we never really looked like we were in any massive danger. I mean, we're 2-0 up. Not to fast forward too much, but I definitely think going into Monday night, last night was a big game. Now I know we can talk about injuries and stuff like that later on, but I think that kind of result, that kind of control of possession, I think it's perfect timing for Monday night's match. Sligo, look, they were okay. I mean, I don't think they're any great shakes. They've been decent over the last couple of seasons, but for me last night, I think from start to finish, we were definitely the better team. I don't think we were outstanding, but definitely our ball retention, pass, and I thought Dan Kelly was excellent. McCarry, excellent again. But overall, yeah, we got to be happy with that. A fantastic 3 points. Probably should have been more as well, which is an even better thing to take from it.
Yeah, Steph, if you just wrap up like Gally done there, we're pretty much done in 5 minutes, if that's all right. No, Steph, just your thoughts on the game last night.
I was going to say, I don't think I need to continue
that's
on.
me coffee this morning.
He's finished.
No happy for you, Pat.
Yeah, look, I think just continuing on what Gally said, I thought we controlled the game just from the get-go. Like, I know they sort of games like that sort of even the two teams around the same position in the league table and sussing each other out, but I thought we got on top pretty quickly. We seemed to be sharp. I know Greg Slog had spoken in an interview a couple of days before the game to say, if they bring what they're doing in training onto the pitch, they'll start getting the results. So I think it showed out there. It was nearly, once we got the second goal and we came out for the second half, it was nearly, I don't want to say it was easy, because Sligo were poor and they kept giving the ball away. They weren't really showing it, and then that Mata striker was sort of isolated up top. So even when I went up to him, I think between Connolly and Boyle, they were just taking it back off him and then getting us going again. I think McCarry was very good. He seems to be growing every time you see him. He seems to be growing into that right full position. And between the three boys in the first half, they just dominated the midfield. So Williams coming back in there, picking out the passes. Benson kept us rolling and progressive. And I thought Sloggett with his driving runs, he was all over the place in the first half in a good way. He was driving forward with the ball and bypassing people, getting the ball out. And then look, I think it's pretty evident that Bradley was probably carrying an injury the last couple of weeks, because last night he was so sharp. Like he was just gliding past people. It didn't even seem like he was pushing himself, but he was going past people at ease. And even if someone got a foot to it or got the ball off him, he sort of just took one more step and he was away from them again. So I was very impressed with him. He put in the cross for the first goal, and then obviously he set up the second one, and he seemed to link up well with Hoban, which was great to see. Second half, you know, like I don't think we got out of second gear really. We seemed that comfortable, but then, like we said off the show already, that we were nearly that comfortable, and Sligo was totally out of the game. That when they got half a sniff, then they thought, you know, we shouldn't be even in this game, and it sort of lifted them a wee bit. But it was really good to see that we held on, like conceding the goal with a good few minutes to go and having to see out the result. Then was really, really positive for me. I know you could pick a few negatives, but some people are saying, you know, we shouldn't be conceding from a long throw into the box, but that sort of looping header, you know, I don't think the keeper stood a chance with it, and you can't start putting people on lines for throw-ins or things like that. So yeah, look, it was disappointing to concede the goal because we had been keeping a lot of clean sheets and only conceding from penalties, but overall, I was very happy with the result. And then look, we've a bit of a task on Monday, going up to Tala, and hopefully Benson and Williams are okay. For be a bit of a worry if they were missing. I know Doyle came on and done well. He kept the ball moving and kept us going forward. It'd be just, you know, will he go with Adams in there again? So I don't know. Be a bit of a dilemma if the two boys are missing.
Well, that's it from us from the Town End podcast. Imagine that would be great.
Under 10, 9 minutes, 50 seconds.
That's it. Kelly, just like, I suppose Steph kind of gave us a rough synopsis of the game there. And he talked a bit about Sloggett kind of being everywhere in it. I was a bit worried when Benson went off, who's going to fill that void, because over the past while, I think Benson has been, you know, we've all kind of waxed lyrical about how well he's strolling around the pitch and bringing everybody into the game. But Sloggett really seemed to step up and thrive in that position, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he was excellent. And like Steph said, his link-up play moving forward as well. I know we would normally see him kind of I kind of describe him as like a Michael Carrick. He's kind of there, but, you know, doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. He just kind of does what's needed. But to me, he was driving forward last night, and he's this. I wouldn't say he's pacey, but he covers a lot of ground. You know, because he's so tall, he seems to cover a lot of ground really quickly. No, I wouldn't and a foot race, I wouldn't fancy him against some fullbacks. But I mean, over maybe 20 yards of going for a ball. But I thought he was excellent. I thought his range of passing is excellent. His link-up play with Hoban, and even his link-up play with Dan Kelly at stages was. I thought Dan Kelly, Carey, Sligo were really excellent. I know, you know, you're playing. I'm closer to the stand in the half I was at, but yeah, I thought he was excellent. You know, I don't know if he's had. We mentioned it before. I don't know if he's found his actual spot in midfield. You don't know if he's a CDM, if he's just a normal sitting midfielder, if he's, you know, I wouldn't say he's an attacking midfielder either, but he can do everything. I mean, he can probably play wherever. Like even at centre half, we know he's been in the centre half early last season as well. Although by last season standards, you don't be judging anybody on where he played last season. But no, I thought he was really good. Like I know we're completely biased when it comes to Greg Sloggett and Mark Hanwady because of the Town End. The Town End sponsorship, but there's no denying he's definitely come on this season, and we did say this would happen because they're back now playing in front of crowds. Because Sloggett and Leahy would have signed when there was no crowds, so you know, getting back into this kind of rhythm of playing a full house in Oriel Park, albeit 2,500 last night. But yeah, no, his coverage of the ground is excellent, and like, you know, we've seen midfielders before where they may run with a ball and, you know, they'll do a dodgy pass, I might lose the ball, but he never seemed to give it up. He never seemed to kind of let it go, let it get to him. You know, probably one eye on maybe Monday night substitute. It was surprising, you know, but then you've got with the injuries to Benson and Williams. You know, even nice to see Bone come on as well, which is a different argument. But no, I thought Sloggett was excellent. Like I think a player like him, you know, we're probably short a midfielder, in my opinion. We probably need another one. It's probably something O'Donnell might look at. But I think players like Greg, obviously Benson, we wouldn't really talk about him, but players that don't kind of go under the radar like Sloggett, they're going to be badly needed when it comes to where we want to finish this season. I thought he did another excellent game last night. Yeah.
And Steph, then I suppose coming to the first goal, like you've talked about Bradley already and the impact he had on this game, like a fabulous cross, and in for Hoban for his fourth, I think, of the season. That's 14 now to go for the record, and I'm sure he's counting them down too. You know, it's one of them things, and I think Gally, was it last week or the week before, when we were talking about, you know, you wouldn't swap Hoban for any other striker really in the league. You know, he's He's that sort of a player. But Steph, if a keeper makes a mistake like that, the one person you want it to fall to is Hoban, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I have Bradley in my fantasy team, so I was looking out to see if he got the assist or if McGinty got it.
By the way.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, look, I thought Hoban adjusted himself well because he was watching the flight of the ball. We were sort of behind it where we were, and it was a great ball in. It was so dangerous that the keeper, he didn't know whether to tip it over the bar, try and catch it. But I think there was that much pace on it. He probably, was going over his head, and it is a mistake from the keeper. But for him to adjust his feet on his weaker foot, I suppose we shouldn't really be surprised. The amount of goals he's gotten, like he can finish it. He can finish it left, right, head. I've seen him chesting and other parts of his anatomy as well. So, but he's just a natural goal scorer, and you definitely wouldn't. Yeah, you wouldn't replace him with anybody. But even just with Bradley, like him just shifting the ball out of his feet to create the space for the cross, like nobody can sort of get near him with it. The form he was in last night, his speed and the quickness of him, he's going to be such an asset for us this year if we can just keep him fit and keep him under the radar so that he doesn't get recalled in July. that'll be a stinger if he has to go. But look, if they can pick out someone like him, you'd have to be confident they're keeping an eye out. They know it's a loan deal, so they're going to be unless they can make a permanent, which probably will be hopeful at the minute rather than anything else. But the 2 goals, like even him setting up the second, Bradley as well setting up the 2 goals. I thought he was the link-up play for that one in particular was
really good, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, like Kelly coming all the way in from the left into the centre. I know Dan Kelly's one of these players that if he misses a chance, it doesn't get to him. Like he'll have a go the next time, whereas some players might shy away from.
Yeah.
Like he might take him 2 or 3 times to score. Like he had 2 good chances before that.
Yeah.
And you're thinking he should have done better, but then he gets 1-on-1 with the keeper again. And he just slots it away, and look, proved vital at the end when they clawed one back. Like 1-0 is a dangerous scoreline to be at. So the link up play between them, especially in the first half, like the Sligo defense were like, fighting fires nearly the whole time. They didn't know how to deal with Kelly coming in off the left. Bradley was shifting around as well. So, like we mentioned previously, like a few of these players can play in different positions. Slog had held a 6 before, and then he was playing in sort of an 8 where he was attacking, defending. He was running box to box. So, and then we seen Bone coming into the whole of midfield position when the boys come off injured. So, yeah, I think he signed players that are versatile and can fill in these positions. So just hope we don't get too many injuries and everyone can play their best position, because that's when we'll be at our strongest, which is pretty obvious.
I think Benson's is a hamstring, is it? I don't know. I think it's going by Twitter. It sounds like a hamstring.
This Williams, was it?
Benson. It says a hamstring, is it?
Yeah, I thought.
Right.
Yeah, he walked off the pitch and he seemed to. I thought he was clutching his ankle. He tried to take his boot off straight away. So I'm not sure. And then Williams seemed to be clutching his hamstring.
Williams at full time was kind of carried off the pitch, so I thought that looked worse.
Yeah. Look, you wouldn't like to miss any of them to the way they played last night, and they're just sort of building the relationships. You learn as you go, and you sort of, players always have these tendencies to make similar runs and you sort of, without even thinking, he's going to make that run, he's going to cover me if I'm gone, and you don't want to see any of them missing when they're just building up that relationship. A new player comes in, and even if they're like the quality, like we've seen, Bone has been very good in some games. I know he's been little bit of little patches of poor play when he's been in full back, but he's probably been out of position at left all the times. But look, if he can go in and do a job there, he's going to be. He won't mind where he's playing once he's getting game time.
Yeah. Gally, I think a player we've all talked about a fair bit is Dan Kelly, and how he trying to find out maybe where his best position was, and how his I suppose goals return isn't as high yet. We've seen him, I'm thinking of the KI game, he was outstanding, and the FAI Cup final, the pass in, to really seal the game in extra time to McMillan that time. So he's a big game player, and we know he can do it. But since moving to the left side of midfield, he's like a brand new player. I think that's 2 goals already this season, from 7 appearances. He's like a newborn player, isn't he?
Yeah, and I'd hold my hand up. I think on the chat we have, I was surprised he was re-signed. I didn't think he'd get re-signed. I thought Stevie O'Donnell might just fancy someone else on the left, maybe someone from Pats. So not a surprising signing, but I kind of thought it might be just the end of the road. He just hasn't really, like, dare I say it, he kind of, when he first signed, he kind of reminded me of Dylan Connolly, where he seemed to have, all bang, no buck, that kind of way. It was just, it was plenty of pace, but didn't really have an end product. But like you say, since he's gone to the left in particular, now look, we know he's a very good footballer, and he could probably play up front as well, I think, if needed. But definitely on the left seems to be, and I think himself and Bradley complement each other very well. I think Bradley coming in has obviously pushed him out to the left, but he's been excellent, absolutely excellent. I mean, last night he gave the fullback an awful time. He actually gave the right side centre half an awful time as well. It was like they didn't want to mark him at times. He's getting into space that he wouldn't have knocked up before. He would have been when he first signed, he would have been a very kind of out and out winger, whereas he would have always been running on the outside down to the end line. But I don't want to be slagging him, but he wouldn't have the best of crossing when he first joined. But now he's cutting in, he's getting involved in the middle of the park. Excellent last night again. I thought himself, I don't know what I probably was justified man of the match. I thought Hoban was in with a shot. I thought Lewis McCarry done a decent job as well. But definitely, on the left hand side, cutting in, and when he gets going, I mean, the only thing that lets him down, just in my opinion, is his crossing. His crossing ability wouldn't be fantastic. I know he's had some decent assists over the years, but if he could just improve on that, he kind of reminds you. I go back to something like maybe John Mountney when he played on the right as well back in the day. His crossing wasn't, probably worth him playing out on the right all the time. But I think it's like you have a brand new player. I know he's re-signed, obviously, he's a new player anyway, but it's like having a different Dan Kelly what we would have been used to. Yeah. And I think he's like, it looks like he's going to play and start every match with us. He seems to be in the 11. Like that team last night that started is as strong as we're probably going to have. That would be probably, we did mention earlier in the season, we didn't know whether Stephen knew his best 11, but that's as close as last night as we probably got to it. And I don't see it changing too much. Obviously, barring injuries from Monday night, but yeah, an excellent performance, really was.
Yeah. Steph, just, at the start of the season, we were wondering, we kind of thought maybe it's Joe Adams on the left, and then we thought maybe the right was going to be up for grabs because we didn't know so much about Bradley. But then Bradley obviously settled into the right-hand position so well. And it turned out that the left-hand side ended up being the one that was up for grabs. We've seen Joe Adams at the start of the season. Now we've seen Dan Kelly come in, and he's kind of really cemented it with goals and everything else in that position. How do you feel those 2 wing positions are settling in?
Yeah, look, I think for the last 4 or 5 seasons or however long, it was just Michael Duffy left wing. There was no, even if he was hit a bit of a dip in form, which didn't really happen, so we didn't even have to think about that position. I do think Stephen O'Donnell had Adams down as the starting left winger, but he looked good in patches, and then obviously we needed to change it up when we weren't really getting the goals. So Dan Kelly's come in and he's kept his position, so you can have no faults with him. He's scoring goals and he's looking dangerous. Sometimes you're waiting for his head to catch up with his legs at times. Like sometimes he might run away with a ball but look, we know what he is, and he's still young. He's still going to improve. Sometimes he makes the wrong choice. He'll try and run a ball, but even last night, like the first half especially, Lewis Banks is an established fullback now, and a good one at that. A very good defender. We've seen him snuff out Duffy before, so like for Kelly to have him on the run, and he looked a bit lost out there in the first half. Banks did. So yeah, he's done really well. Like Bradley only came in late on the right hand side. I think he'd only been training a matter of days before he came on the second half of the Malone Cup, and he was just a bright spark straight away. And I think everyone realised pretty quickly he was going to be a hell of a signing for us in the short term. So, once there's competition for places, like even going back to Adams, when he came on in the middle, he nearly looked like he was more comfortable, and he was better picking up the ball. And I think he drove it at their defence and midfield a couple of times, and sort of had David Cawley on the run a little bit. Do you know when I think he had a shot from about 25 yards on his left weaker foot, which look, it was probably a comfortable save for the keeper. But do you know, little bits like that will give him confidence, and maybe he is more suited into the central position. So it might be an option that we didn't really like. Stephen O'Donnell will obviously know we can play in there. He's put him in there, but like to have that option as well, do you know, we might realise we've more options than when we look back on it. But do you know, just keep getting wins and keep getting more confidence, and it's just building at the minute. I think we're building for something good. I know people can look at the draws, and do you know, we're up into third. Like, we're not a million miles off. I think I think the two teams that's up there at the minute, we said at the start of the season it'd probably go like that anyway, and we'd hopefully come into third, and it's sort of panning out that way at the minute. If we can keep playing and beating the teams around us, you know, especially the home form is going to be massive, and getting the crowd behind us, I think there's a massive lift in that as well. It's definitely worth a few points to us that we mightn't get without the crowds.
Yeah, Gally, with the number of changes and everything this year, and I think over the past few years at Dundalk, you could really see a pattern of play and how we played, and you kind of, any new players had to fit into the system. This seems to be, you know, going from scratch again. From O'Donnell, he's trying to maybe reinvent how Dundalk playing, and we're thinking of the way we're scoring goals. You know, with you know, a right-footed player playing on the left-hand side who probably cuts in more towards Duffy. Had 2 feet, he could go, you know, for a defender, it must have been a nightmare, because, you know, he can go inside you or outside you. With probably a different way of playing on that wing. Do you think is that what we've seen at the start of the year, where, you know, like kind of Steph just said, there's a lot of draws and stuff like that, but were we just trying to discover a pattern of play that is Dundalk, and now we're probably seeing that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, you're obviously with all the hype of Stephen O'Donnell coming back and the players that were signed, and maybe we didn't get the so-called marquee signings people were looking for and stuff, and a couple of players from Pats and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's going to take a couple of weeks to bed in. I mean, it took Stephen Kenny, you know, for all the success we had, it took Stephen Kenny a long time to bed in. I mean, the first season, we had no right to finish what we did, you know, on paper, the players he had signed. But as the season goes on, you get this mentality. You know, these lads probably haven't had the start of the season that they wanted, but he signed players, like Steph was saying, and we were saying last week, he signed players with a purpose. You know, most of them could play 2 positions. Adams last night was the perfect example, coming into the centre. But not even Stephen Kenny, he would have played on Michael O'Neill and played in English. So, you know, there's a way of playing that he's used to, and most managers now will play a certain way, and most teams will try and cancel each other out with that. But it's the way you implement it, it's the way the players implement it. I think they seem to have a real kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe like a bond up there with Stephen O'Donnell, given his history with the club and stuff like that. And yeah, you got to implement it, but I mean, it can't be done overnight. But at the same time, you want it to be done. You're kind of now, like we said last week, I mentioned last week, we're now into the second phase of the fixture. So we're playing everybody for the second time. So now's the real time we need to kick on, because we know what other teams are like. We know what you're going to be up against, and they now know what Dundalk are going to be up against. But as long as we've 2 players that can always play in double positions, without even changing formation, you can change the type of player that they're going to be facing, opposition will be facing. Because like simple, like Steph mentioned, Adams coming into the centre last night, Sligo playing a bit more up the field, a bit more attacking. So, you know, ideally what you want now is these second runs of games to really kind of implement what Stephen's talking about, what they're training for. It's similar to Kenny, but it's not. You're not going to get that era of. You're not going to get that again. I mean, those players were just an exceptional. Like, it was ridiculous, the players he had, and it came from nowhere, most of them. But I do think we're starting to see, what are we now, 10 games, is it?
This is the 10th game, yeah.
10th game. So you're almost a third of the way through the season, and I think now you'll start to see what they're implementing and training. You start to see a set squad. Like I said last night, for me, it's probably the best starting 11 we have. Obviously, we're not going to have that now on Monday night, given the injuries that came off. Maybe we might miss one or two, but like the big thing, even apart from Adams coming on last night, the big thing for me was Bone coming on to the centre of the park. You know, players like that to come on who would normally play fullback, centre half, to come in and be able to play in midfield. It goes to show that they're all kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. Yeah, I think, going forward, do I think it's going to? I don't want to start sounding too negative, but I think there'll come a time when we might take a bit of a pasting. But I do think we can get caught.
We're going to take a pasting there, Kelly.
The big thing I was going to mention earlier, Conley, early on in the game last night, Conley probably should have been booked after about 90 seconds. I think the ref let him away with murder. But for me, just that little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Sloppiness is probably the best way of putting it. When they seem to get thick at the back, and I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent here, but when the two boys seem to get a little bit annoyed at the back, they seem to just cripple everybody. Like Conley should have been booked after about 90 seconds last night in the match. But that mentality, I'd say Steve would have had him over that. Something like that. Little things like that can cost you going forward. But the way they're playing, do I think we're going to beat the likes of a Derry, a top side of Derry? No. But games like Sligo are going to be vital. Games like last night, that's going to be a massive 3 points. And I think going forward, it'll give them confidence for Monday night. But back to your original question, Chris. Yes, I do think they're playing a great way I think it's going to take time, but I think they're at the point now. We're now at the stage now. We're 10 games in. I think we'll start to see a mass improvements over the next couple of weeks.
I don't want to play
Donald and Pingu, so Gally's come in with the pessimism tonight, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say I don't want to play devil's advocate here, but just like on Gally's one, I think when he's talking about Conley at the back there, but I think that's the best time to put in a challenge in the first 90 seconds of a game.
You're not going to get booked.
99 times out of 100, you don't get booked because it's a first challenge and you can use that as an excuse, but you're also letting the striker know. Look, You're coming here to Oriel Park. Like, I do know what you're trying to get at, like as well, but I think that's just him using his experience. That look, I can get away with one here. I can leave one on the striker to let him know that I'm here. He's not going to have an easy time up in Oriel Park against me. Do you know? Like I wouldn't see it as sloppiness. I thought maybe in the second half when they got the goal, just before that. The striker Mata went through the middle nearly unopposed, and I think probably Shepherd probably made the wrong choice. I know it's lucky if they make a split decision in a matter of seconds, but I thought he rushed out of his line nearly too quickly. But Mata
put it over. He was offside for, was it?
Was he offside for that?
Yeah.
He put it over the bar.
That's right. Oh no, sorry, no, yeah, you're right. No, yeah. First half. Yeah, I remember there was one in the second half. You're right.
Yeah,
first
in the
half,
second half,
very poor touch and put it way over the bar. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think. It was the second half, and he ran through, and he was clear. Like the likes of that, I think O'Donnell had come down on the boys because they seemed to open up from the back, and he did a clear run, and he just didn't finish it. Thankfully, we could have been under a bit of pressure if that had went in a bit earlier. The way they reacted to when they got it, when they clawed a goal back, but so look,
and even just on the keeper, I know they've scored. He's not had a lot to do last night, which is any kind of shots they had were just down his throat on the ground, which is again you're keeping them at bay.
And just a little one that I noticed as well. It's just after popping into my head that I think maybe it was Fitzgerald and someone played a lovely through ball to him. It was in the second half as well, and he was running in, and McCarry made this recovery run. Yeah. And he just came round and he nicked it off him and got it clear. And you just see Conley. It was nearly like Bakari scored a goal at that stage. He was celebrating with him and he was building him up. But that would have given Bakari, like a young player coming into the team, like he would have felt the world of confidence after that. And Conley, they probably all look up to him as sort of a leader at the back. He seems to be the most vocal. I think Boyler probably, leads a bit by how he plays. That's the sort of example he sets his standards. Conley's more vocal and drives the team on, and the young lads would be looking up to him, and that would have filled him with the world of confidence. And then obviously you've Leahy coming back in as the nice balance with the left foot, probably something we were missing, a natural left back. And I thought the boys were really good, bar maybe one or two small incidents, but at this sort of level, to give up one or two chances in the whole game is pretty good. Like,
yeah, I think McCarry's made the right full back his position, hasn't he? I think it's his now to lose. I think that's the way O'Donnell's kind of going with McCarry at the right back. I know Bowen kind of started there early on with the injury to Lee, but I think that's McCarry's now to give up, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, he's settling in, and he's probably, marking off. Yeah, he's my first choice right back. He's my first choice left back. 2 centre halves. Mm-hmm. I think we spoke about Lee when he came back. He'd definitely be coming back in. And you can see similarities. I know O'Donnell's putting his own wee stamp on it, but it's sort of the same sort of. We've started with basically nothing. With the same with Kenny, he built his own squad. O'Donnell came in a bit later that he had to, there's probably some players he probably missed out, and some players he signed him just to do a job to get him to the next level, get him to the next stage. So you can see the similarities there, and I think we can be nothing but positive about what the futures hold.
Yeah, Gary, I suppose just to go on to their goal last night, the long throw into the box, like we said, it's very unlucky. We're probably inches away from getting a flick on that and getting it away from goal. Unfortunately, Max does get in and gets a header, and it loops over Shepherd. But myself and Adrian Taff, when we were talking after the match, we were amazed that's only, the last time that Shepherd conceded from open play was in the 2-2 draw in Bowes back at the end of February.
Really?
So, like,
that's a
hell of a result. Two penalties in between at Shells and Drogheda, and that's the only other goals he's conceded. None from open play.
When was that? That must have been like February or something. When was that?
25th of Feb.
Didn't even. I had no idea that was. Yeah, that's mad. Yeah, start over there. Yeah. And it's like Steph was saying, it's annoying to concede from a long throw, but it's one of them, isn't it? Like, you loop over. I don't think any keeper. I think because of where he was standing, if you had 2 keepers in the net, it still goes in. It's just bad. It's just he's probably like you say, he's a couple of inches out of the way. It's one of them. Like, it never looked like it was going in from the stand. It looked like he was going to go for the bar, but that seemed to happen. It's one of them, slow motion into the bar. I'd say he was sick, but you could give it to them because they didn't look like. I know, you have a couple of minutes at the end, where it's a little bit 2-0, one of those disaster kind of score lines to have in a game. But they never really looked like they were going to get an equaliser. Never looked at that. But look, it's a simple goal. It's route one, throw in. After all the play they've had, that was probably the way they were going to score, because they had so many. They must have put the ball just as well the nets behind on the town end. Like, there must be 40 balls over the foot. And they weren't even close to it. They were 20, 22 yards over the bar. Like, some of those, so they're kind of. I don't know what they're doing in training, but they're obviously not doing that in training because they wouldn't get picked. So if they're doing that in training during the week with Buckley, they wouldn't get picked for a Friday night match, because it's frightening how bad they were from distance. But yeah, it's one of them goals. Look, you'll forgive it if you're winning 2-0, and it gave you a bit of a sweat for the end, but it never really looked like we were going to do anything. They wouldn't come back or something like that.
Steph, for such a young keeper, I think it must have been a good 5-10 minutes straight in the shed they were singing his name for a new song. It must be like you must feel about 9 when that happened, surely.
Yeah. Look, there was a few Instagram stories going around, boys in the pubs after the game, and there was a few Shepherd chants going around as well. So yeah, he must. Look, he didn't really have a lot to do last night, so he probably heard them chanting away. So yeah, he has to be filled with confidence. I went into the shop the other day, and I was wearing a Dundalk Sippy, and some fella I sort of know of him through football come up to me and says, "Oh, you're after missing Nathan Shepherd was in here a few minutes ago," and I was just like, "All right." But they've a bit of a stature around town and a bit of a name now, like, and compared to the last couple of seasons where people, I don't know, just a bad feeling that was amongst the club. It was sort of a feel good factor about it, and that can only be positive. Like, if you're playing, I know it's still at a decent standard, Brentford under 23s, to come and play senior football, play in front of a crowd every weekend, a couple of thousand every weekend, that's what, like, look, they're living our dream at the minute. So I'd say they're all buzzing about it.
Yeah, definitely. Gally, just we've kind of touched on it earlier on, but obviously injuries to Williams, to Benson, and you mentioned the double substitution with Sloggett and Kelly going off to get Martin and Sam Bone in tonight. You think it was that slightly thinking ahead? We were 2-0 up at that stage, thinking ahead to the Rovers match now on Monday, because it's one of them 3 games in a week, in 7 days, sort of a fixture list again. And we know if you can come out of that with a reasonable amount of points, you're in a good position. So how do you think he's going to adapt to those injuries?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There was that kind of groan in the crowd when Robbie Benson went down. It's one of those players, isn't it? Like even when he was here under Kenny, you couldn't afford that type of player to be missing. I think the Sloggett Kelly was needed. I'd be interested to see if when Sam Bone came on and played centre of the park. I'd be interested to see what is. Obviously, it's a needed substitution to get Sloggett off, get him out of a rest for Monday night. But I'd be interested to see, was he looking at Bone as a possibly hatchet man in midfield for Monday night? Like, I think he could do a job for you. I don't know if Doyle. Yeah. I don't know if Doyle comes in. I mean, on paper, you would assume Paul Doyle will come in and maybe Adams. But I'd be interested to see if Bone gets a game on Monday night, because I think you might need that kind of enforcer in midfield. I think Bone could be that player. Now, whether he'd have I don't know if he has the passing range, maybe a necessary pace of skill level of Paul Doyle, but Doyle for me hasn't really hit the ground running. I know Gav mentioned him early season that he could be the sign of the season, but I think Williams has kind of blown a lot of people out of the water for that accolade at the minute. But I'd be into. For me, Bone could be a very good option. I think he was kind of half looking at that as well, and it's not great. Look, to have to make that decision isn't great going into a Rovers match on Monday night. But this league, throwing up these 3 games in 10 days, this must be the 15th time they've done it this season. It's crazy. I know it's a bank holiday weekend, but the other ones, there was no need for the other ones. It's ridiculous. Like, we're only coming into May. But I think an option there for Bone. I just don't know if Doyle comes in. And like Steph mentioned there, Adams could play a centre of the park. You know, he could be that option that they might go with. But I think Bone could be a player needed, maybe definitely at some stage, but maybe from the start to kind of just break it up in the middle of the park. Because now you've seen Sloggett kind of running forward with the ball, not playing the CDM like we might have expected. But definitely Kelly coming off. Definitely, I mean, the boys coming off have definitely one eye on Monday night. Yeah, but I think in the back of his mind, Sam Bone maybe definitely as an option. But look, as we say, I don't think we're going to be massively under strength. I just think with Robbie Benson in particular, what he's missing, that's a nightmare. But look, you have to go with what you have.
Yeah, Steph, like we've seen previously under other managers, we've seen Sean Hoare even drop into that just in front of the centre backs. Could he do that with Bone, do you think, against Rovers?
Yeah, I think he could. I don't think he will, but I think it's definitely an option he has. I think he probably will go with Doyle, Sloggett and Adams, if I'm honest. I think Sloggett could go back into the 6 and let Doyle do the ball playing, but then you're missing Sloggett's driving runs. But I think the two of them could play in either position, really. And that's the joy of having the versatility of them. And then Adams is very progressive, and he looked very attacking when he got on the ball. He just looked to drive, get it out. He was sort of playing more on the left-hand side, so he was sort of driving out to the left, playing it out to Kelly. And I think that's the 3 he probably will go with. It's tough to know if he'll sort of change shape, but I don't think it'd be in his mentality to set up to just confine them. I think he'll try and play his own style and just tweak it a wee bit. If we are missing the players, looked like 2 bad injuries. So I just hope if they are missing for the match on Monday that they get back pretty quickly, because I think right now at the minute, Adams, Benson and Sloggett are the 3 boys in the middle that I'd like to see playing.
Yeah, I suppose we might as well start talking about the Rovers match, and we'll go into our predictions then with that too. Gally, look, it's never easy going up to Tallaght Stadium, but then you think Monday night in the middle of the bank holiday, you just don't know what way that sort of a fixture could go. What's your expectations for that? What's a good result?
Oh, look, a draw is a good result, and that's not being. I'm trying to be as optimistic as I can. The problem is though, like with the team that started last night, I think that team's capable of playing anybody. It's just when it's not even. Williams has been excellent, but a player like Robbie Benson. I mean, we were looking for a player like Robbie Benson last season, and he's shown what he can do in midfield when he's in. But look, I take a draw right now. I take a draw. I'd like to see a score draw, 17-all. Just for excitement for the fans. But a boring 0-0 draw. I think it will be a score draw. I just think there's always too much in these games. I think in Tala Monday night, it's kickoff 5, is it? Or what is it? A late kickoff? Is it a late kickoff? I don't even know. Bank holiday Monday. The extra 3
5 in the morning with it.
The better off.
The
pubs aren't open. Yeah, the longer they leave the kickoff, the more drink people can have. But I think the atmosphere will be good Monday night. I would snap your hand off for a draw now. I mean, even if it has to be a 0-0, I don't think it will be though. I think there'll be goals in it. I think when Dundalk go to Tala, Rovers on the difference. The mentality change.
7 p.m. kickoff.
7 p.m. Yeah, so pubs will be open.
First game from 3, 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
So it's one of those.
I think it'll be tough. It's going to be a tough game anyway, regardless. Even if our strong 11 goes up. But look, there might be an added incentive there for players who mightn't, like Steve Adams there, make his mark in midfield. There's a chance for everybody then to get in because there's injuries. But I'll take a score draw, 1-all right now. Absolutely. I'd bite your hand off.
You going for 1-all or 17-all?
17's probably.
He said 17-all first, so
17. I'll go to go for 1-all. Yeah, I'll go to go for 1-all.
Steph.
Yeah, look, it's odd because it's the second Monday night game we played against them. We played them on the Monday night in Oriel. It's sort of like a 7 o'clock kickoff's odd as well for us. So I was going to say 1-all as well, but I just don't like to be seen to be copying someone really. Yeah, well, not that it's just Gally, but if anyone, I think it could be a 0-0, being honest.
Great.
I think they might cancel each other out. What? Oh, sorry. I've nipped in now before you got there first. Happy days. Yeah, look, I think a draw would be a good result. If we're missing players, it'll make it even better that we can get something up there. You just don't want to lose the game up there against them. That'll widen the gap, and then obviously, some of the teams behind us can jump ahead of us again. So, look, just to keep the momentum going, I think another clean sheet would be good for the boys at the back. Was robbed with my prediction on last night with the 2-0. I think live at Oriel had given the goal to Bradley, so I was nearly right. I said Bradley and Hoban. So by his standards, I think I was got a correct prediction. But yeah, look, the long throw one sort of killed it last night. But I'll go for 0-0.
Yeah, I went for 0-0 too. I just think we've enough to frustrate Shamrock Rovers in the way they play, and very much like both of you has said, I think if we can nullify and not let the two in front of us go too far ahead, and then try to pick up more maximum points behind everyone else, that's how to try to solidify ourselves in an outside chance of a European spot. I don't think anyone is banking on that from this team this year, because
except for me,
the gaffer have come out and said it, but you want to be there or thereabouts by the end of the year and give yourself something to play for. So I think that'd be ideal if we could do that, and I just think we could frustrate them again. Going by the game in Oriel Park, like they didn't offer. I know there was the 2 fantastic saves from Shepherd that night, and I'm just thinking, the tactic they had that night was initially just to try to load it in on top of Shepherd, and then I think he's probably grown in stature within the league over the past while as well. So I think people realize actually this young keeper isn't that easy to just lob a ball in against, and that's all you're going to have to do to get past him. He's much quicker off the line now, better understanding at the with the back 4 now as well, and that's really starting to come through in the number of clean sheets and everything else we've had. And I think I think a 0-0 is me and Steph will copy each other. It's there. Shout out to Pingu, I suppose, with getting the right prediction last night. I mean, he's claimed 2-1 forever, so it was bound to come up at some stage for him.
Even a stop clock, right? Twice, huh? Twice
yeah, but he's probably hit the luck mark twice this week with a new arrival as well. So a new arrival and a score prediction. I really don't think he could probably do any better this week. Maybe I have a low bar of life expectancy. I'm not too sure.
It'll be hard to get him back on now. You won't want to come back on lower standards and come back in with us again.
yeah. But the only good thing is, I suppose, with more babies coming in on this podcast means we'll eventually we can get replaced, lads.
Generation
podcast continues then.
Yeah, I'm on borrowed time already, but Ross's appearance a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, true, lads. We might just have a quick look at the table for where it stands at the moment if it comes up. Dodgy time.
For fresh, and we can actually have a look at it this season.
Yeah. Well, it depends if Gally's doing. I wouldn't ask him to be sharing all these other screens. I'd be worried what might pop up on another screen. Moving on. So Derry stayed top of the league, 23 points. Shamrock Rovers 20 points. Then to Dundalk in third on 15 points, and it's very close in behind. Pats on 14. Sligo Rovers in fifth on 15 points. Then Bows, Drogheda, and Shelbourne all on 12 points, and small gap back then to Finn Harps and UCD. Lads, just a quick look at that table, Gally. Is that kind of what we were thinking? Give or take 1 or 2?
Yeah, Derry be really disappointed last night. They'll be they'll be absolutely sick over that one. But I mean, yeah, it probably is. I mean, Bows probably a wee bit, you probably maybe would have expected them up beside the high flyers that we are. But yeah, it's pretty much, UCD, unfortunately, are just one of those teams that are always going to bounce up. They'd have to have somebody has to have an absolute nightmare of a season for them in order to stay in the league. I don't really see it. It's not that I don't see a change, but that's pretty much, with the exception of maybe Bows. I think Drogheda will finish below Shelbourne. I think Drogheda will have a nightmare of an second half of the season. I predicted them for Oriel. The only thing that's going to keep them up is probably UCD. But yeah, it's pretty much. I mean, Derry. Look, it's only a couple of points, but I mean, they probably should have won last night, and they probably would have expected to beat us first game of the season as well. So you're rocking over 25 points then, really. But yeah, look, it's pretty much what you'd expect. We're sitting third. I mean, I definitely didn't have a sitting third after 10 matches. I probably would have maybe fifth. But yeah, look, it's shaping up nicely. And look, you're in the second half of the season, second round of fixtures now. So you've got to kick on and chase that second spot if we can. Yeah,
Steffi, and it's interesting as well when you look at, the teams that are in and around us. So the 4 European spots this year, the Sligo, Pats, Rovers, and Derry, who will be all European, who will probably start having one eye on that come the end of this round of fixtures, because their third round of fixtures is going to start getting affected by European commitments. If we can just stay within touch and base, that's the ideal position to be in, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I said at the start of the season we'd end up finishing third, and we're in there at the minute. It's like, look, you go back to 8th and Shells are on 12, which is like a win behind us, which is pretty crazy. Like, so when you look at our sort of draws and the draws, we probably could have picked up wins like the late Shells penalty, and different games like that, like the
Rovers match we could have won it with Hoban at the end.
Hoban at the end, there was one more game I can't think of. We probably should have won, but I think we're probably where we should be at the minute. I thought we had a slightly better squad than Pats, Sligo, and Rovers, just based on the first game or two. And I still think that will be the case. I think we're only going to get stronger. The European games might come into effect a little bit, depending on how long Derry and Rovers and Pats can stay in the competitions. And yeah, look, if we can beat the teams around us, and then if you can pick up points off the top two, you don't know where it'll take us. But I think right about now, we probably deserve to be in third anyway.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting when you look at the table there. You'd say, right, it's only our third victory of this season. Yeah, the only other team who has one loss this year is Derry City and us.
Yeah.
You know, so it's you could say you're bang on power with the number of games that Derry have actually lost this season. So and we're not conceding very many either. So like I think we're in a good, strong
the same
position.
with Steph was say if you're only dropping points to Derry and the likes of Derry and Rovers, then you're doing all right. If that is the case and that's how the season turns out, if you're taking points off everybody around you, they'll be absolutely fine. Yeah.
Well, look,
second to third anyway.
And I should mention as well, just when I see Darrell Lee, he turned 24 yesterday. How's that man only 24? How long has he been playing League of Ireland football? I couldn't believe when I seen his age. I thought it was a misprint. I just seen the flash up on my phone here on Twitter. Absolutely unbelievable.
Unreal.
He's playing about 16 years at least in the Premier.
24 years of age. Couldn't believe it.
Look, I suppose in a change, what we normally do, we normally wouldn't be on at this time. We'd normally be on straight after. So it's lads, it's good seeing you in the bright sunshine.
I know I had to adjust me blinds in my kitchen because it's that bright. I had to put them all down before the podcast started.
Yeah, it's a real first world problem for us. Thanks as always to our sponsors each week. So we didn't do a Tony's Pizzeria Man of the Match. We'll hold that because we didn't think people want to start talking about pizza at 11 o'clock in the morning. So we'll hold that for the Rovers match, and we'll do a rollover onto that. So thanks as always for them, for Player Fit, for our merchandise. What we're starting to see a little around Oriel Park last night. Now, right, Gally?
Oh, it was great. I didn't actually spot it. They had shouted something to it I couldn't hear, but the hat, because it was black,
it took so long for their gear to arrive.
3 weeks waiting on a hat.
It's usually someone shouting abuse at me, so I just try and ignore everything.
It's great to see. Yeah, great to see. And there was a certain other podcast behind us. So as I was taking pictures of ours, I was probably like, maybe we should get Gil. Poor Ken and the guys. Nice to meet you. A nice podcast loving in Oriel Park last night.
Yeah. And finally, thanks to Donald Green and Loud Village, as always, for the main sponsor for
Dundalk Village.
Excellent. For their overall sponsorship of the podcast this year. Gentlemen, thank you for joining in this morning. Again, we might do this every so often, lads.
It's not even lunchtime, it's great.
Sure, I'm sure Pingu's going to be up early.
We're on Tuesday morning.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks to everyone for tuning in. I don't know what that word is. For tuning in or listening back, whatever way you get the podcast. Look, we're seeing great figures as always. So thanks so much for everyone for being part of the podcast, for being part of whether it's you're adding in your predictions on Twitter. Keep doing that. We'll keep ours up for the season as well. Part of the fantasy football league that we have as well. Anyone could still join that at any time. It's just a bit of crack as well. And thanks for yelling some abuse at Gally in Oriel. That's always appreciated too. And for Steph for just not getting a hug off Greg Sloggett last night, but pity. It'll happen.
It'll happen someday.
So that's us for the show for today. Does anyone want to end it, lads?
Go on, Steph.
Anyone want a final word?
Yeah, Gary Hill looks better than Crow.